some significant declines in their air arrivals, those who are coming into the country by that way. Just to quote here, they're saying that the available arrivals data for Caribbean destination is limited because, like I said before, October numbers aren't really in yet. But therefore, so it's too early to provide, but there is still enough signs to show where they are suffering certain things, like, for example, with cruise tours. A lot of rerouting had happened, and again, Belize, being that our ports weren't damaged by Maria and Irma, the way that we saw them in, I mean, we talk
or
about...
even Harvey.
Yeah, or even Harvey. You know, some of the cruise ships came this way, so we have cruise ships that rerouted this direction. I think some of them are like the Carnival Glory, Carnival Magic, and Splendor, along with some others. I think I've heard some names that were thrown out in the Love FM Zone newscast not too long ago. And so we kind of benefited. I hate to use that word considering the circumstances, but yeah, they came our way. And so I think one of the things that we have to recognize is that we have been fairly fortunate this tourism season. And one of the things that the tourism, and when we get into the tourism figures, I think, I don't know if William can put up the first image. There we go. This is from BTB. I think everybody would have seen this already. What you're looking at here for 2017 for overnight, we saw that we had 319,000 overnight visitors. Compared to up to September, the first 9 months of the year, that's a 8.6% increase overall. And if you look in the far right corner, for those of you who are watching by TV, all of the figures relative to their previous month last year are positive. So we've seen positive growth overall overnight tourism. And one of the things that was noteworthy is that even in third quarter, which is July to September, which is technically the low season, there are still reports of us having positive growth relative to last year. And so that's saying that we still continue to see positive growth in tourism, despite some of the things that have been going on. The BTB reported that we had seen, while, like I just mentioned, some other countries are having lower airlines arrivals, we've seen slight, or version of it was slight increase relative to, because of some of the cancellations or the difficulties some of the airlines have been having with the weather. The storms recently,
well, and some of it we have to realize that when somebody's cancelling a trip to their original destination, they have several choices. It's not just, oh, well, we can't go there, so we go to Belize. You have the option to stay home and delay your trip until the place is back to speed. You can go to other locations in the Caribbean, or you can change regions altogether because you decide, well, it looks kind of hinky when it comes to hurricanes. There is an importance for the entire region to come back quickly, because a lot of the time people traveling to this region don't necessarily make distinctions. When they hear the Caribbean has been damaged, they think of all of us.
Yeah. I think there's a campaign that's going that says basically the best, I don't remember the exact wording, but it's like the best way to help is to visit.
Right.
And I think according to the reports that seem to have been working. The one last thing, I mean, we have the cruise figures. I don't know if that's what you were going to.
No, I wasn't going to go through the cruise figures. I was more concerned that we don't look at 319,000 arrivals as the best that Belize can do.
Yeah.
We're a growing tourism destination, but we have a lot more room to grow. The airlines coming into Belize, it's good news for us when they all come full. I don't know that we have many more airlines coming. I don't know that they're all flying full. So I think as a country, as all of us, we have a lot more work to do to encourage people that this is their destination.
I agree.
Choice.
And the other thing to that as well is the occupancy rate for hotels, whether or not that's also high enough. And then we also have to look one thing is to look at the tourism arrivals, then there's the tourism expenditure, how much people are actually spending. Because one of the things that even the Article 4 by the IMF had captured was that while we still see the numbers going up in terms of number of people coming, whether or not they're still spending in the usual traditional hotels or going to cheaper lodgings like the Airbnb, and that's potentially a shift in the market that we have to pay attention to. And again, coming back to why is it that when we talk about businesses have to remain consistently on the ball and competitive and nimble enough to be able to respond to some of these
and to
changes.
always develop new products that keep us a little bit different and make Belize the place to be, I think is part of the tourism slogan. But basically that we don't relax, because this is the largest portion of our economy, services and tourism related products. And so we have a long way to grow.
Yeah, true. Quickly, William, the next photo. Well, I'll just say this in a short bit. Again, we see more negatives here when we talk about cruise. Overall, at the very bottom right, you will see, for those who are watching by TV, that we're talking about a 3.7% increase in terms of cruise ship arrivals. We can discuss whether or not that's reflecting in the expenditure side and spending. But again, you mentioned the rerouting, all these type of things. We know BTB is heavy marketing. So right now, we have benefited in a certain way, and we can't just start running around the place saying that we have arrived, as you pointed out. We have to make sure that we're ready, because these type of factors, weather and other things that occur, our largest market still remains North America. And so we always have to be attentive to what's going on in that market and what's going on at them. But yeah, enough on tourism.
There's that, and there's the business of, even if somebody chose us this time, we have to let them fall in love with us to the extent that when they go back, they say, Belize wasn't my first choice, but I'd tell anybody to go there. So let's remember that the crisis presents an opportunity, but we must take full advantage of the opportunity when it arises.
Agreed, 100%. All right.
Since we're moving towards the budget, let's segue in there by discussing the latest developments with stamp duty.
No, I was talking to a real estate agent yesterday, and he was telling me. Well, he messaged me first over the weekend, and we met yesterday, and he was saying that he spent his entire weekend just after getting a release from the government with stamp duties, the 8% that has been applied now to non-residents, and he's saying that he spent his entire weekend wondering how in the world, what he's gonna do. Because really what happened is that we had the 5% for, again, now it's going up to 8% for non-residents, and so that release came out, and so basically it just says that for everybody who's a Belizean or CARICOM, it's 5%. For everybody who's not any of those first two, it's 8%. And this is part of the whole revenue needs that the government had put out there now. But we're getting that signal for that first break. So we'll be back after these. This is where you usually say one of those cute things, pay bills and stuff like that.
But all right, I'm going live now, girls. Let's do it again.
Ow! And I can't help loving myself, and I don't need nobody else. If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me.
Stream, share this summer with the best mobile data and make it a fun time with Smart.
Ask any landscape professional who they depend on for professional grade power tools, and the answer is always the same: Echo. Ask any dealer who offers the most powerful, most durable, and most reliable equipment in the business, and they'll tell you Echo. Then ask yourself, doesn't your lawn and garden deserve the professional's choice? Echo. The best outdoor power equipment you can buy.
Getting sick is always out of our control.
Welcoming a new baby into the world is always a joy, but with both scenarios comes missing time from work.
Now, thanks to Social Security new direct deposit service for short-term benefits, life is easier. No more cashing of checks, but a direct deposit into your account. It's secure, reliable, convenient, confidential. No more checks. So whether it's sickness or maternity leave, sign up today for direct deposit with Social Security. Social Security Board, committed to service excellence.
Good morning and welcome back to our second segment where we talk about all kinds of interesting things, and today we're talking about how your money is spent by the government. Quite thoroughly, I think. Right, FinSec? No. Today we have the financial secretary with us, Mr. Joseph Waite, and we see him on TV a lot, but we don't get to have much by way of direct conversation with him on the budget. Usually we discuss the budget as something that the Prime Minister reads a speech and we find out how many taxes are going up, and then that's the rest of the year for us. Today we thought we'd get a little bit more in depth and discuss how the budget is put together, what's envisioned when the budget is being put together, and so on. So FinSec, thank you for coming in, welcome, and we look forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you for having me, and good morning. Indeed, it's a very important subject. It's, they talk about two things inevitables in life. There is death and there's taxes. You're not taxed to death, but I mean but the taxes are an important. It's a transfer, really. It's a redistribution. Okay, under the Constitution of Belize, okay, there is the establishment of a consolidated revenue fund, and there is regular laws that require a range of tax laws, and I can name some of the big ones very soon. One is going to this consolidated fund, and then approval of Parliament. Very sorry about that. I thought I had turned it off completely. Annually go to Parliament to get through a general revenue appropriation bill. You get approvals to allocate money for certain programs and projects to support the government. The revenue appropriation bill is 2 or 3 pages, major heads, divided by ministries, and the budget book itself is an annex. It's a schedule to the general revenue appropriation bill. The book is about 300-400 pages long. It has a number of. It's an interesting read if you have the stamina to go through it. But what it shows in very detail, line by line, ministry, programs, cost centers, and you can really see exactly how the money is spent. Say how much money goes to travel and subsistence for the Ministry of Home Affairs, for instance, or how much money goes, transfer grants go to a certain school. It's all there as a schedule to this general revenue appropriation bill. By law, we need to go to Parliament once a year, annual budget, and it's a long process. It starts about now, October, November. What we do is we send out what is called a budget call. The budget call basically sets ceilings of what we think the expenditure would be. We have to do the estimation of revenue first to see where that is coming from, and a lot of work goes in with our main revenue departments. And I mentioned earlier, the big revenue departments are direct taxes and indirect. Direct taxes are mostly customs duties, taxes on things like fuel, imports. Indirect taxes is the VAT, the value-added type tax that we have, which is a GST. There is excise taxes, that's a direct tax. So we estimate first what the revenue is likely to be. Comes out to about 1.1 billion dollars now. Okay, and from that we then set allocations per ministry. But there is a waterfall. The first allocation you need to make is essentially you have to provide properly for your debt service. You have to provide properly for your pensions. You have to provide for these are the must spends, and unfortunately, a very large portion of the money that is allocated is wage and wage related. I would say close to 65% is wage and wage related. That is wages for public officers, wages for teachers, transfer grants to schools, which in turn pay salaries, pensions is becoming a big item now. So one has to first estimate what revenue you're getting, okay, estimate then what your expenditure is likely to be, and then to see whether there is a match. If it's in equilibrium, where you can trim your expenditure down to because really what you would like is more than equilibrium. You'd like a little surplus to put toward your capital program. Mm-hmm. The budget is divided in three main sections. There's part one, which is your recurrent. That's your day-to-day operations, salaries, wages, operating expenses, materials and supplies, utilities, another big item. So the part one is your recurrent expenditure. Part two is your capital. Part two, the local capital expenditure, funded by the surpluses you made. And then part three is your foreign funded capital expenditure. There's a part four now called transfers to various enterprises. It's not big, it's very small. And then you could almost say it's a part five, is the amortization of your debt. So there's interest. And then
not that small anymore.
That's not that small. Okay. In fact, debt service is about 11% of our budget. It's fairly steady, okay, because we have sort of put the super bond on a stable path for the time being, and it should remain that way. And most of the rest is, and super bond is our only commercial debt. Okay, the rest is all loans, borrowings from at very concessionary long-term rates, and we're pretty much stable where we are. But the challenge for the government is to try to limit the expenditure so there's a little bit of surplus to put toward the capital program, and at the last resort, if there's a gap, then you need to raise taxes. But the first effort is to hold the expenditure down. I know we've just finished a three-year, multi-year, three-year collective bargaining agreement that saw wages. It was repressed or suppressed for some time. So when we lifted the lid, it went up. Again, it's that is over. And there's no. And I believe the unions recognize that it's time for a pause. Before we look again. The idea being that let's try to hold the recurrent expenditure down as much as possible. Try to get more efficiencies as well, because there's always room in a budget to to get more efficient and better value for your money. And one of the big concentrations is, and we hear the usual things about utilities and use of fuel and so, but also to get value production, to give the environment so that staff produce more, you know, for the same, with the same resources that we have, buy new computers, buy new technologies so they can produce more, and that's always in the classrooms, try to improve the quality of so that deliver the education system better. But going back to the system itself, we send out a budget call at around about now, October, November. Give the ministries time to, we set hard ceilings. In fact, we're aided again by a computer program that if the ceiling is not met, it won't accept. You know, when you key in, it won't accept. There is negotiation, but quite frankly, there's very little discretionary spending. Of course, we have to. Of course, we will and continue to consult with our social partners. After all, the taxpayers must have a say in how their money is spent. But and to try to get some ideas of, you know, because we don't have it all, and we acknowledge that we don't have a monopoly on what the thinking is, and you know, we do need to get responses and feedback, and you know, and that type of thing. Yes.
Last year, when you sent out the budget call, I think you the requirement of ministries was that they find a cut of something like 5%. Mm-hmm. Are there similar restrictions envisioned in this budget, because you still have that 3%? Or is it 2% surplus that you need to?
Yes, the restrictions remain, because under the fiscal plan that we put toward our creditors and basically for ourselves, it's not for them. Basically, we needed to lift what is called the primary surplus. The primary surplus is a level of savings that you can then put toward your debt service. Huh? And a primary balance has to be around 2.5%, and that's what we aimed for, at least, to be able to generate the savings sufficient to carry your debt, and therefore to over time to bring your debt down rather than up. Under the program, we said, okay, we needed to do an adjustment of about 3% in total. And the adjustment has two components, two parts to it. Revenue raising, which would yield about 2% of GDP. And by the way, 1% of GDP is roughly about $35 million in 2017. Huh? So what we did in the budget last year was put a series of measures in that would lift the revenue by about $66 million or so. Mm-hmm. And the other component was to reduce and to constrain expenditure to yield another savings of another $35 million. In total, we'd get about $100 million, which would take that primary balance into fairly positive territory, and then keep it there for the next 5 years. Yeah. But it requires, because we have in our wages policy, we have something called annual increments in a wage policy, which is basically automatic. That is a driver, and that takes it up. So we have to continue squeezing everything else to hold on to maintain.
And I have to ask,
Sure.
because we've seen in the past sometimes where we always have these primary surplus targets, and then whether or not we meet them is the question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can say it at this stage, but are we on target to meet that 3%?
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty confident that we are. We have our unaudited early indicators. One early indicator is we watch every day how the cash flow runs. Where we've not had to borrow any money apart from the compensation payments this year. I'm happy to say we've not had to borrow any money at all to fund current operations. In fact, looking at the accounts, I'm confident we'll make that target. The challenge is to keep it. To keep it. And there are other things that happen. Thank God that we've been lucky. We've been spared today, this year. There'll be no weather events. A little bit of rain has caused it. But we've been fortunate, and the rest of the economy is dynamic. One has to be careful though, because you can't squeeze too much out of the system. You have to give it room to grow, huh? And therefore the government is recognized has to contain its size and still provide the services that are required.
Not meaning to put you on the spot, FinSec,
That's
but
fine.
just kind of curious, us in comparison to the rest of the region, you mentioned that the wage bill tends to be around 60% or so. Is that, I would assume that's above average for the region.
Well,
Wage and wage related, I should
if you
say.
look at the Caribbean region and the smaller Caribbean countries, I think it's about the same thing because the public sector is naturally big relative to the rest
To
of
us,
the
yeah.
economy. So, if you look at countries, say in Eastern Caribbean, Barbados maybe, Jamaica is a little bit bigger. Certainly for Latin America and Central America, our numbers are high. Yeah? But when you look at the reason, but the thing, because the state has to provide services that the private sector would not, would otherwise, you know,
Right.
health and you know, education,
Security.
but the challenge is to hold it at a level to because you can't take all the resources. If an economy is growing, the state can't take all the resources that are generated. It has to leave some, and also contribute to the enabling environment as it's caused. So in a sense, it can't be all for government. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, in the context of that, though, there was, I think, an effort to, in containing costs. I think some of the public servants had gotten together to do, was it a cost reduction study? I assume that there were some submissions made in terms of how government could save costs, and were those ever applied, or are they
There was,
contemplated?
indeed, there were two committees, there was a cost savings committee and a revenue enhancement committee. Work is ongoing. Some of the early indicators we looked at and we tried to put in place. Certainly, there's always scope to control or to reduce expenditure on things like utilities, things like use of the government fleet. Also, the payment of overtime and the payment of payment in lieu of vacation. So when it comes to things like utilities, we have two things we've done really is instituted on internal replaced the internal wide area network flat fee. So I can talk to my colleague. So there's no charge, but it's an intercom system to replace the defunct Intelco. Also, many have signed on to these plans, which are the cost of utilities are going down. At the same time, a lot have gone to using VoIP, and you pay a flat fee for communication. Emails have taken over a lot of the traffic. So that's one area that we can. It's always a challenge to try to hold on the fuel and the cost. Every now and again we put embargoes and but it's a battle. Sometimes you think you're winning, sometimes you think you're losing. But again, you keep at it. The effort also is to try to do larger procurements. That is, it's going to take some time, but say buy bigger in bulk and distribute, get better prices. Insist on more competitive bidding. Try to move away from single sourcing. Even though it may be urgent. Look, man, you with a little foresight, and so you could do better. So a number of things there.
Does program budgeting help with that, with increasing efficiency, or is it just simply a different way of doing the budget?
The program budgeting it basically focuses on your attention not on your input but your output. What is it that you intend to achieve with the resources you have? It's a measurement, so it's more output based, and as a result, and there should be rewards and penalties too. And some programs do have a sunset, and that is what might have been relevant and 10 years ago may not be so anymore. So the idea being that, look, instead of asking for inputs, and you need inputs for your programs, but let's see what is it you intend to achieve year one, year two. So multi-year is another thing we want to try to put more in place. Multi-year budgets. So there's a beginning, also an end.
Sure. I have to ask, what emphasis is placed, because I know you mentioned the budget call.
Yes, sir.
But when it comes to the ministries or the heads of those ministries, what emphasis is placed on making sure that their budget are aligned with the medium-term plans that we have, like, for example, the GSDS or whatever other plan that we are
Well, the budget call is a 12-page document, sets out, and there's a check when it comes in to see, well, look, are you aligned to, are you moving in that direction, state your goals. And therefore, the program budgeting will say, look, this program will achieve, if it's access to schools or if it's, over a period of time, and like to measure and to say, look, use the resources you have to try to move to these targets and try, it's a evolving process, but we're moving it in that direction so that instead of just concentrating on last year I got $1, so I need $1.03 now. No, let's see. With $1 last year I was able to do so much, a little bit more, and try to focus on what it is you're doing.
Well, one of the things there, when you said some programs have a sunset, we often I'll call them the good old days. They might still be with us to some extent, but in the old days you'd have a grouping that would be formed, or some sort of unit or entity that would be formed to carry out a project, and then the project would be over, but the unit or the entity would just never go away. It would somehow continue to exist. Does program budgeting allow for visibility within the government where said unit has the shelf life of the project and then dissolves, or?
Oftentimes, some programs would be funded initially by an IFI, a multilateral agency, set up a new service, a new institution, and the government then should take ownership and fund it at the end of that startup period. So, that's an expansion in service. That's an expansion in your and you therefore have to find resources to carry it on because it's a permanent arrangement going forward. Some are not. Some is basically a clearly defined goal, and you hire people on contract, and at the end you release. You release. Oftentimes you try to find something else. But some programs are designed to start and end, and one has to look at it because you have things that may have been relevant in the mid-80s or the mid-90s are no longer there, And I think the time has come to look very carefully to say, look, maybe some pruning is necessary. I know that, or reallocation of resources.
Well.
Yeah, and I know a large part of the whole program budgeting aspect of things and the whole management for results has to do with the ability for having data. And I know the national statistics system is a large part of that. Now, I know that still it's in its beginning phases, so I don't know what impact that's having so far, but in terms of looking at the budget for the key performance indicators, do we expect to see more of those coming out this upcoming budget? Or
yeah, indeed, timely and accurate statistics are essential, especially in the planning process, and the SIB admittedly needs more resources. It's not simply an annual census or a household survey. It is to get the finger on the pulse of the economy, measure and to report in real time growth, production, the real sector. Also social indicators as well. We have these poverty assessments and so, but you should be ready to see whether you're gaining, to get basically a handle of where you are. If you're gaining in the fight or you're losing in the fight, where the resources. So it's critical. We have a very good team there, headed by Dr. Perriott, an old friend of mine. But admittedly, they need more resources. And again, it's a question of the allocation of this, because it's critical to have the numbers. So you need them to plan. You need to say where are you gaining ground? Where are you? Are you standing in place? Or are you losing? So it's very critical.
FinSec, all of when the budget call goes out around about now, and the budget speech ultimately will be read somewhere in March for the budget to come into effect April 1st. No irony in the date, obviously. But is there any portion of the budgeting that goes beyond a year? For example, Dion mentioned the Growth and Sustainable Development Strategy, which is a medium-term strategy. When you're looking at elements of the budget, is it that, for example, debt servicing takes such high priority that we're focused year on year? Or are there some elements of the budget where you say, look, we're laying the groundwork in year one, and then in year two we'll look at this, and 3 years out we're here? Does this happen as well?
At the annex of which is not part of the appropriation bill, but we do what we call a 3-year forecast, of where, especially and the idea being to try to provide enough. If you know you're going to start a multi-year program, especially a capital expenditure program, one has to indicate that, well, look, you're asking for resources for the year just coming, and we're still in a single year appropriation cycle. Some more developed countries have it going forward, but at the same time we want to signal to the Parliament that, look, we will also need in year 2 and year 3 something to focus on, because there's no point in starting a project if you don't know where the resources will come from second and third year, and then what you expect to get out of it. And it also helps you to, especially when you forecast. We have pretty good statistics and programs that will indicate what our debt service profile looks like and the requirements going forward. The idea being, well, look, year 2 you'll have a problem because it's a spike maybe, and year 3 maybe not. But the idea is to at least have a heads up as to what the resources will be required to carry on going forward. And we are trying to. We're not a multi-year budget is a challenge, and I don't think any countries in the Caribbean do it quite yet. In the most sophisticated European countries, but it's to move in the direction, because you need to look a little ahead of you. I mean, even in your family, in your own personal planning, you can't really.
Your house loan might be 30 years. So.
And your horizon can't be at most 12 months and then 11 months as time goes on. I mean, it has to move on. So
yeah. Forecasting is always a fickle thing. I think as we're getting closer to that hour or that time, one of the quick questions I want to ask is, by way of tax administration, one of the things that that the Chamber and the private sector has consistently raised when it comes to government's need for revenue is to tighten where the holes are, to clog up the holes by tax administration. I think after break you had mentioned some of the new posts that were like the Commissioner of Stamps, and different things that are there to fix some of that administration gaps. No, so can you please just comment on some of those?
The thing with tax administration is that taxes have to be simple, equitable, and easy to administer and perceived to be fair for people to pay. We are trying. Yes, there are some gaps in the system, and admittedly, what we're looking at, say, the general sales tax, the income tax, to try to widen the base, close some of the holes, so that more pay at the existing rates, rather than there's a tendency that if you're not getting enough money out of the system, to look at the rates. But what is happening then is that those who are paying will pay more, and those who are not paying
will get away with more.
Yeah. So, but it takes some time, because it requires really looking at, say, for instance, the general sales tax. It requires looking at the list of what we call zero rates and see, well, look, are they really all are there too many of them or too little? I mean, what do we do there? In the case of income tax, there's a case to look at excuse me, personal income tax, to see, well, is a single band really the best option, or do we graduate it progressively? Business tax, again, you look at the business tax and say, look, how do we can get some, and the effort is to try to integrate the two departments better, so that there's joint, one taxpayer base, to start with, and joint auditing and sharing of information to try to get more out of the system, because there are calculations you can do to see, well, your economy is, is so much, your tax yield should be, and then you compare what you're actually getting to what the notional yield should be, and you look and say, well, look, there's room to do that, but bearing in mind too that we can't stifle the medium and small, because that's what the middle class and the medium to small enterprises, that's what drives your economy. We have to give them room and space and incentives to grow.
Should statistics play a role in that when you talk about expectations? For example, if statistically we have a good idea of how many businesses we have in the country, it should give you an idea of how much you can expect in terms of tax, And when I'm saying that, if we're pulling together all the data, what's being imported at customs, what the EPZs are doing, and so on and so forth, the expectation should be pretty clear, no?
And there could be better effort or more effort at trying to bring the informal into the formal sector. because the informal economy in Belize is big, rest of the world as well. But it's big because we have day traders. We have people that go out there, sell something, and go back home. I mean, no mobile, no fixed address. One moment they're here, one moment they're gone. But the incentive, we need to have this tax system that won't penalize them or discourage them from coming into the M. In VAT tax, in theory, should help. Because you can get refunds of your, but the idea is to set it so that your informal there's no to remove the barriers for the informal to becoming formal, because the benefits to being in the formal sector. You can open a bank account easier. That type of things.
Right.
But it's an ongoing. We're a nation of large. The importation mix has changed over time too, which is another thing. I mean, that is, when we were younger, I was younger, you had 1, 2, 3 big importers, and then distributed. Now what we're having is small, and we have containers coming over the border with mixed items, barrels and things, which are for resale. It's not just for personal, and it's to try to bring those into the tax nest the best you can. So it takes some time.
Well, speaking of time, we are completely out of it, but it has been a pleasure to have you this morning. Any final comments on the budget?
Well, no, I just want to say thank you for inviting. I mean, I think we just scratched the surface.
Early.
Happy to come back. And maybe focus on specific items. I don't know if I did it justice in 15 minutes, but the closing thought is that the government has to and will come closer to the. We're here to serve the public and the tax, and those who pay tax and those who don't pay tax. Okay, and the idea the budget should be a tool for the development of the country, but it can't be done in isolation in Belmopan in a back room, in the middle of the night. I mean, it requires consultation, communication, and we're here to do that.
So we can look forward to some deep consultations on this round.
Indeed.
Mr. Waite, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And
My pleasure.
we will see you again hopefully soon. And for the rest of you, please join us after this break for our discussion with
Miss
Narina Switlow, all about entrepreneurship. Thank you. See you next.
Good morning. Generally fair conditions will continue to dominate over most areas. The 24-hour forecast, skies will be sunny with a few cloudy spells today and cloudy at times tonight. A few showers or a period of light rain will occur mostly over the sea and along southern coastal areas. Elsewhere, showers will be isolated. High temperatures will be 86 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 90 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 77 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Low temperatures tonight will be 75 degrees Fahrenheit along coastal areas, 70 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 64 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountain Pine Ridge. Winds will be from the north to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and sea conditions will be light chop. A high tide occurs at 12:45 this afternoon, low tide at 6:44 this evening, the next high tide at 8 minutes past 12 tonight, and the next low tide at 7:22 tomorrow morning. The moon will set at 9:22 this morning and rise at 9 o'clock tonight, and sunset this evening occurs at 19 minutes past 5, with sunrise tomorrow morning at 5:54. The extended forecast for Wednesday and Wednesday night is for some cloudy spells with isolated showers, a period of light rain mostly over the sea and along the south coast. In the tropical weather outlook, at 3 a.m., tropical storm Rena was centered about 880 miles east of Bermuda. Rena was moving north at 12 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Elsewhere in the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. With this, we end this weather report from the Belize Weather Bureau.
It's not just a job, it is mentoring.
It's leading.
It's showing.
It's building. It's inspiring.
It's caring.
It's working. And you're going to drop that into your briefcase. Teaching is not just a job, it's everything.
Apply today. For more information, including scholarship opportunities, visit teachbelize.org.
Builders Hardware Annual Birthday Slash on November 10th and 11th. Mark your calendars to join us for a whopping 25% discount on water heaters and pumps, industrial size ice boxes, floor tiles, garden supplies, doors and windows, power tools, light fixtures, bathroom fixtures, hunter fans, lawnmowers and trimmers, paint accessories, plumbing and electrical supplies. Almost everything in the store. All paints and wood stains will be slashed by 20% discount right through to the end of December. This will be a mega celebration with snacks and raffles while we slash the prices in our store. 25 to 40% discount. Come check out our clearance section for some crazy deals and lowest prices for 2 days only, November 10th and 11th. Builders Hardware. We think our customers are awesome.
It's for builders who build with a passion and skill. Go to Builders Hardware.
Imagine what's possible when everything you need is in one place, where all of your information is shared across a system the moment everything changes. We've handcrafted the truly awesome HR software you've been looking for. Say hello to the all-in-one HR platform. Say hello to New People. With New People, employee records are transformed from boring old files that no one updates to real-time digital files that you bring to life. When you use New People, employees and managers can view all of their own information, and requests for a vacation is now easier to book, and applications are never lost. So, where would you rather be working? You could work in an old HR world where softwares are boring and the system causes more headache than they should. Or you can work in an awesome new HR world where your software is beautiful and friendly and where people are valued and fully engaged. Your employees will love it and you'll be a hero, because the easiest way to manage your human resources is to treat them like people with Neo People.
This house got Wi-Fi or what? Buy you to worry about Wi-Fi, we come for party! You only live once. You've got to live in the moment and make the most of each time, because once it's gone forever. That's why I love my Digicel 4G LTE mobile data. Hey, you know the Wi-Fi password? I am always connected. I can share my memories with everyone. They always know what's happening. You know who hosts this? You got a Wi-Fi? Not have to be like Bali here and they try thief Wi-Fi. With Digicel 4G LTE, you can share whatever you want, whenever you want. You never have to wait for Wi-Fi.
The bigger, better network. Digicel.
What? Finally I get Wi-Fi.
They don't know.
Haganya!
Awaha!
Haganya!
Awaha!
Ni duheyu, no madagu, lofu lasagru, aba irumo. Chuluha yotia dalu, Battle of the Drums, huh?
Yes, folks, it's here again. The award-winning Battle of the Drums festivities. Save the dates. Friday, November 10th, 2017. The Battle of the Drums Food and Fete, showcasing Paranda music and Garifuna cuisine. And on Saturday, November 11th, 2017, the 12th annual Battle of the Drums, immediately followed by the annual Garifuna Musical Festival. featuring an impressive lineup of musicians. It's all going down inside Paini, Punta Gorda. Stay tuned to this station for more details. The Battle of the Drums, embracing the legacy of our forefathers. Platinum sponsors: Atlantic International Bank, Love FM and Love TV, James Bus Line, Will Mejia and PGTV, Belikin, Belize Tourism Board, and Bayer Sweets. Diamond sponsors: Oceana, Niche, Raju's Variety Store, Radio Belize Mix, Travelers Liquors, and Atlantic Insurance.
Good morning again and welcome back. For those of you not yet at work, and even for those of you who are, this third segment we always discuss entrepreneurs and innovation, and I'm happy to say that our today's guest puts Belize on the forefront of the health craze out there in the world. You don't usually think about Belize and healthy, when we think about food, but today we have with us Miss Narina Switlow from Nalido, Belize. And Nalido, Belize produces, and I'm going to model it for you, truly turmeric. And this is basically, we know it locally as yellow ginger. And yellow ginger has lots of magical properties. As I said to Dion off air just now, if you put yellow ginger in your food and drink lots of coconut water, you should just about live forever. Am I right, Narina? Thank you for joining us today, and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm so happy to have been invited here, and excited to talk a bit about our product and, of course, the wonderful people we work with in Toledo.
Awesome. So tell us about Truly Turmeric.
Yeah, so this product is pretty special. It's the first of its kind in the world. So it's the only wild-crafted whole root turmeric paste that is in existence. And it's produced in Toledo, in Punta Gorda. And we're a social enterprise. So that's kind of the main part of our business, is we make a healthy product that is with fresh turmeric, coconut oil, lime juice, and salt. And you can use this in your cooking, your soups, smoothies, stir fries. It has great antioxidant properties and antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory. So turmeric is a very healthy food. So we produce this wonderful health product, and then we work with young people in our production facility. So I have to do a quick shout out to all our team in PG that are listening today. So we have Belkis, Leon, Mangar, Tanisha, Sean D, Fulton, Ramelia, Charmaine, Hector, and Mariano. So this is our team that works in our production facility to produce this absolutely beautiful export quality product. And then we partner with, of course, around 350 farmers in Toledo that help source our turmeric for us, which they produce a very beautiful quality of turmeric.
What was that number? 350?
Yeah, about 350. And we're still catching up on we have a big waiting list and still catching up on our inspections. So.
Nice. Wow. I'm like that you're shouting out your production team.
Oh yeah, of course. They're absolutely amazing. You know, it really wouldn't be possible without them. So.
Mm-hmm. Somebody once told me that everybody on your team is under 30.
Yes. Well, you know, since we've been in business for about a year now, we've got graduated to 31, one of our team members. But yeah, our youngest team member is 19, and all from Toledo, Punta Gorda.
What skills do you look for in your production team?
Well, you know, It's more so the personality, because I think that, you know, your food safe skills and your production skills, you can train for that. But we really look for somebody who has initiative, who has that curiosity and that drive for challenging themselves and being innovative in the way that they're thinking and doing things. So that is our biggest thing. We've made our team of empowered youth that really kind of want to make a big difference in their own lives, but in the communities that they live in as well.
Okay. Yeah. And you recently achieved EPZ status.
Yes, we did. We just signed all of that paperwork, must have been just a couple of weeks ago. So we're pretty new to the program.
So how was the journey to that particular destination? How you started? What gave you the idea? How did you start? Tell us a little bit about the history there.
So the company in general is kind of the brainchild of my mom. So her name's Umida Switlow. And she had come to Belize as a volunteer with a Canadian organization called CUSO. And she was here to work with the Ministry of Youth on entrepreneurship. So how do you inspire young people in Belize to become involved in business and social enterprise? And while she was volunteering, she was touring around the country and visiting different parts of Belize. And when she went to Toledo, there was the Indian Diaspora Conference on. And she saw the beautiful yellow ginger growing and said, wow, this is amazing. Like, let's do something with this. And so that's kind of how this business started. Our family is East Indian as well. I'm half, but our family's East Indian, so curries and all of that is in our blood. And this recipe was our first try at it. The recipe that we have in the bottle we still use is the first try we did making it, so it worked really well. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. We've had so much support from Beltrade and other government bodies and just the whole community that we've been really lucky that people have mentioned, try out for this EPZ thing and see how it goes. And yeah, we just kind of rolled with it, and here we are. We've got our EPZ status.
And now at this stage, you're exporting. So how many, or which markets really?
So our primary market that we've started with is Canada, because my mom and I are Canadian, and Canadians absolutely are passionate about healthy foods and social enterprise. So they absolutely love the taste of this product, but also the fact that they know when they purchase this off the shelf that they're making a difference in people's lives. So our primary market is Canada. We have about 200 stores from coast to coast. So Whole Foods, Choices Markets, some of the big retail stores there carry this product. And we send about a container load every 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we also work a little bit in the Bahamas and looking to expand globally, hopefully. Yeah.
So when you said handcrafted, and it takes you about 6 weeks to produce a container load, that's some pretty industrious hands you've got there.
Yes, yeah. Or each jar is sealed by hand, and trust me, if you try and open these jars, they're very tightly sealed. And we have one small grinder and mixer that we produce this in. So it takes us a little bit of time, but as we grow up, we'll scale. We wanted to start small. Our family, isn't from a very wealthy family. We put our savings into this, so we started with one blender, and are moving on up.
I love these stories, these type of real life stuff. And one of the things that is impressive about it is the number of staff you have. Because we're talking about sending container loads and all this type of things, but we have about
10 young people that work with us. So, producing 10,000 jars or so each month. It's a lot of work, and they're just brilliant at it.
What's the most enjoyable part of all this? What's the thing you enjoy the most?
I think there's two big things. One is being in Belize, which is just a beautiful country. In Toledo district, oh my gosh, the natural resources, the natural beauty of that district is incredible, and the people are so wonderful. I think knowing that, we could have decided maybe we'll buy a farm and do our own yellow ginger, but we just loved working with all the farmers so much. We said, no, we don't need to do that. We're going to work with farmers that already have yellow ginger growing on their lands within their organic cacao. And let's work with them and seeing the impact that it's been making on people's lives, that they're saving up for things. And one of our staff members, Leon, with one of his first paychecks, bought his mom a washing machine. Just that kind of stuff that just makes you feel really good to be a part of the community and a part of the team. And then in Canada, seeing the difference that this product is making in people's lives. We have a lot of people who have some serious medical conditions that take this product, and we get emails, thank you so much, and we love what you're doing in Belize, we love your product, and just, it's exciting.
Wow. And what was the toughest challenge you faced in getting to this point?
Yes, entrepreneurship is...
it has its moments, I know.
It does have its moments where you go, oh my gosh.
I remember on the phone you referred to the scary world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, there have been moments where... you just feel out of your element. Oh my gosh, what do we do next? Or because especially with this product, it's never been made before. So going from a blender to scale up to being able to produce a container load is, it was challenging at first. What timing do we need? How long is this going to take? Also just navigating some of the policies and different ways that you get export ready. Just little challenges like that where you're like, whew. But lucky we had a lot of amazing advisors and support that helped us along the way. I think that's a key. As an entrepreneur, you build your network. Find the people in your industry who have been doing it a long time. Marie Sharp, for example, is a wonderful, wonderful woman that has been quite helpful in helping us figure out the different ways to do things. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious, as you said, your main market is Canada. What are some of the products that come close to being your competitor?
Well, I think the main competitor, which most Belizeans would be familiar with, is the powder, right? Yellow ginger powder. So we have a different product in the fact that it's a fresh yellow ginger, which is thought to be more easily absorbed by your body, because it has, the fresh yellow ginger has the oils and other compounds in it that helps your body absorb the medicinal properties. So our main competitor is powder, but we knock it out of the water because once somebody has tried this, they say they'll never go back to powder. This has a zesty flavor.
Yeah, I was going to say, even the flavors are compromised when you knock it down to powder.
Yeah, exactly. Powder has a little bit more of a bitter flavor, and because we've got glorious Belize coconut oil in here, fresh squeezed lime juice, sea salt. It has a vibrant flavor. So,
you tried a version with black pepper, I think.
Yes, we do. We have a version with black pepper that is black pepper grown from the Spice Farm near Golden Stream, and they produce. Oh my gosh, you just pull it out of the bag, and the whole room smells like black pepper. It's beautiful. Yeah. And black pepper is supposed to help as well your body absorb the medicinal properties.
You keep referencing the medicinal, and I know you alluded to some of them before, but I would want to focus a bit more on some of these medicinal properties because I've been looking briefly and I'm seeing a whole heap of things that this is good for. So can you list off some of the main ones?
Yeah, so I think there's anecdotal stories where traditionally in Indian culture it's been used. You can even whiten your teeth with yellow ginger. You put it on your teeth, they go yellow, you brush them off, and you have whiter teeth. Traditionally, we've used it for stomach issues, skin conditions. If you have scarring on your skin, dark spots, you can put it on there. It'll lighten the scars. That's kind of the more traditional uses. When we look at clinical studies and people studying what the effects are, the main one is antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Those are kind of the clinically proven good health benefits. And then, there's people kind of run with that and say it'll prevent cancer and do all these other things, but that's not proven.
And what about the longevity promise?
Well, I was saying in combination. You can't put all the weight on turmeric here.
Well, my grandmother, my grandmother, Mama G, she's an amazing cook, and she's kind of my mom and I, our inspiration for doing this business. She's she used to race cars when she was a young lady, and she's like 87 now. So in her generation, an old Indian woman, racing cars and running businesses. She was a pretty inspirational woman. So, but she's 87 and she eats yellow ginger every day. So,
So it says something.
Yeah.
And sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice do you have for anybody wanting to be an entrepreneur, to do something a bit different, to do it for themselves? What advice do you have for them?
I think the first thing I would say is plan and research, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and then realize, oh, somebody else is already doing this, or that name's taken. Start with the research. For this company, it was the first time I ever wrote a full-on business plan, and it took 3 to 4 months to do that. And my mom and I worked on all the different scenarios of if this goes wrong, how is that going to impact our business? And that planning process is so important, and it does take a lot of patience and due diligence, but start with your plan and then get out there and talk to people. Use your resources, your networks, and then test out your target market as well, right? To see, is this a product that someone would actually even be interested in? That's so important. And kindness, patience, and persistence is also really important.
Right. Very valuable things all around, not just in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
There's a phrase that's been used here that isn't used very often, so I'll take the opportunity, since you're here, to ask you about it. Social entrepreneurship. If you can explain it very briefly and explain what's so rewarding about social entrepreneurship.
For sure. Simple. Social entrepreneurship is you make money, you make a difference in the area that you choose, whether it's like health, environment, and you make a difference with the people that you're working with. So different from enterprise in the fact that if you have a straight business, money drives things, right? Profits. But with social enterprise, you have to look at all three as equal. So maybe doing a plastic jar would have been cheaper for us, but it impacts the environment negatively. So we decided to go with glass. It helps you move your business decisions.
And I think that's the perfect point to end on at that point, because I think I'm glad that Kay asked the question about social entrepreneurship, because I think it's good to let people know that business people and entrepreneurs out here are thinking along that lines, and it's not only the bottom line drivers that that part of the world, that phase is slowly becoming a thing of the past, no? And more people, especially younger entrepreneurs, are thinking like this. All right.
So, some nice, good feeling entrepreneurship, some excellent innovation, working with young people, high productivity, exports. It ticks all the boxes. And so, Narina, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, just that the time was too incredibly short. So hopefully we can have you back again in the future when you're all the way up in the city.
Yeah.
And you can talk about your experience in Merida, because you were in the expo.
Yes, we did that. Yeah. That was really fun. Thank you so much. Honored to be with you this morning.
And can we find this locally?
Yes, actually, that's a good point. So you can find this on our website, nalido.com. We have a list of the stores in Belize that you can find it. But if you're in the city, Brody's is the main store that carries it here.
Okay, great. Thank you very, very much for joining us, and congratulations to you and your mom and to Mama G. and we will see you again soon. And folks, thank you for joining us. Once again, it has been a truly wonderful experience joining you for Business Perspectives, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
I look forward to Christmas. It's a time for hope, a time to share, a time to be together, a time to be joyful, a time to be with friends and family.
Bank your way this Christmas and let us help you make this season one to remember. Use Go Mobile, Atla Express, Atlantic Online, and your Visa debit card for a chance to win a 60-inch smart TV, an iPhone 8, a laptop, and many more fantastic prizes. Visit our website for more information. Atlantic Bank, creating memories this Christmas.